Hello there, many thanks for joining us on this edition of Joya Sanye Live. Today we'll be going to South Africa, where unfortunately xenophobic violence again has resurfaced. Not long ago we had recorded it happened in 2015, in 2018, and it got to a point where even in Africa, even in Nigeria, we had air peace that was celebrated for going all the way to South Africa to evacuate Nigerians free. But we are recording this. We are not sure if it is organized or just triggered or something to expect intermittently in our history. But it begs the question, are we really united as Africans? That fragment is obviously showing. Is this target on Nigerians? Because we're also recording such activities across the not just the continent, but the globe, where a lot of government, a lot of citizens in other parts of the continent are also complaining about Nigerians. What indeed is the problem? We're getting to the root of it on today's edition of the program, and also answering the question of, is it time for Africa to boycott South Africa? Because these attacks are incessant, they are coming too often, and they are attacking African migrants. Most unfortunate is also the very fact that it's not just the African migrants that are attacked. We are recording killings and attacks on businesses. Is this asking for too much? Are they asking for too much, talking about documented migrants? Are they really the problem of South Africa? Are they really taking jobs from the South African job market? That and all would be conversed on today's edition of the program. And in the studio to do justice to this program right here and this conversation right here is Ambassador Dixon Umuregie. He is the Executive Director of the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. I'm happy to have you here because above everything, we would be discussing how diplomatically we could solve this very ugly incident that we are being recorded. Again, it's not isolated. If you ask me, to South Africa, it may be more reported, but we're also having a certain reports of the same thing in Namibia. We're having in Ghana, where Ghanaians are also asking that Nigerians should not be given land, or rather should not be sold land to, which is very uncomfortable, very disturbing for an Africa we hope is united. So first of all, how did you feel when you got this information of xenophobic violence erupting again?
Thank you very much once again for having me. It is very, very disturbing. It is not healthy. It does not show communal relationship. It does not show that we are one as blacks. It does not show that we are one in our continent. So in its entirety, it's not a good information, it's not a good story, and it should be condemned in this entirety. When I heard it, my heart bled. So it's not good. Somebody in my own culture, we say that you don't fight whoever comes to you to visit you. You don't fight your guest, you don't harass your guest, you don't kill your guest. So your guest loves you, loves your environment, that's why they are with you. So if you don't see that they are being maimed and killed and harassed, it's quite unfortunate. The humanity in us has deteriorated. That is it.
Very unfortunate. But again, like I said in my opening, are they asking for too much when they say, let us have documented migrants? Let us know who's committing crimes, because one of the allegations and justification for this attack and the protest that happened a couple of days ago, and the protest is ongoing, unfortunately, is that these individuals come into their country and cause mayhem, cause violence, and there's a spike in crime and criminality in South Africa at the moment. So if that be the case, hypothetically speaking, because I don't have statistics to show or prove or at all, if there is a spiked violence because of the black migrants in the country. However, what should be the solution? Because they're asking for these migrants to be documented.
Well, it is their prerogative to say they want the migrants to be documented. And it is also very, very appropriate. Whoever that leaves his soil to another place, for them to have their records is very, very important. Even under normal circumstances, if you are leaving one state to the other and you're going to start residing in that state, locally or communally, you are expected to be documented. It is proper. Mm-hmm. Even from one house to the other, as your landlord who wants to receive exactly they need to know you. So, however, the problem, I don't think it is because of lack of documentation. Although most people who may be committing this mayhem, there are people whose visas may have expired, who may not be legitimately known in that environment, so they want to hold them accountable. But that is not an excuse for this xenophobia attack. Exactly. Because there are some countries today too who are not who do not document immigrants, and yet the countries are peaceful. You see, why I'm not trying to justify whatever the aliens are doing there, I also want to emphasize that I'm sure the South Africans, they are not doing eternal job. They have security agencies, they have rules and regulations, and when they are followed duly, appropriately, I'm sure there will be no room for these crimes to be perpetuated. So I'm sure they also have their fault.
Of course. Would you say that that statement from the South African government condemning the activities is sufficient to curb this violence against black migrants? I will get to the point where, coincidentally, it's the black migrants that are targeted. If you're white, South African, you have a space, you're accepted, but the black migrants seem to be the ones attacked. But let's get to the intergovernment conversations and efforts, not just the South African government. I know that Ghana had written to South Africa to say what is going on, how can you protect our citizens? Please ensure that our citizens are safe. But is that enough?
Yes, what we see, that is what a reasonable government should first of all say.
Right.
To condemn that activities. Otherwise, it can deteriorate and cause another form of war. It can become a national war between one country and the other. But what they have said has doused the tension. It means the government has, whether they mean it or not, they have said that they are not in support of what their citizens are doing. So that's a comforting statement, so that whatever country that they are being harassed, you know that yes, the government is not in support of it. But you just made mention of that the blacks are being targeted. Why blacks are being targeted is not deliberate. Most of the whites that are there, maybe they are not the countries they came from. They went there for a purpose. They went there maybe to do one or two businesses. But I'm sure the people they are attacking right now, they may also be doing business. They may not be doing legitimate business, though not all anyway. But majority of them, because from the story we heard sometimes that most of them peddle drugs. So when you see that their citizens there are now getting addicted to drug, and they see that it is aliens that are selling those drugs, look, it is actually very, very disturbing. So the whites that may be there, of course, Nigeria is not white, and the whites that are there, some may be Americans, some may be Europeans, some may be...
A lot of them are Indians and that have naturalized,
yes,
but they are welcome, is what I'm saying.
Yes, they are stabilized to an extent. I'm sure they follow the rules. Even the Nigerians that are there, you know how we operate at home. You know the way our boys operate at home. So if they are operating at home here and they decide to extend it over there, then it becomes something else. So I'm not justifying what they did. I am saying that if, as a Nigerian, if you curtail yourself properly, if you behave well, nobody will harass you, nobody will embarrass you. If you don't soil your hands, if you don't do wrong business, if you don't, if you do not initiate violence, nobody will harass you. Why I condemn what the their government has said, I also want to expect our country to also ask the appropriate question, what is happening, so that there can be talk between these two countries.
Well, Nigerians are once again remembering the diplomatic support that was given during apartheid. I mean, the support that Nigeria was constantly given, not just to South Africa, to other African countries against apartheid, against colonial rule. And I remember having a conversation with someone who said Nigeria in 1976 avoided or boycotted the Montreal Games in solidarity to the end of apartheid in South Africa. These are little things that Nigerians did to, or rather not little, it was enormous. We spent billions to support our brother South Africa, and here we are. Is it that, let's get to the roots of it now. The problem is it that this young generation of South Africans are not aware of who their brothers are, who has stood by them over generations to ensure that they stand peaceful today? Or is there a gap in African history being brought down? But even if we do have the history, would they know, would they still be in the streets today protesting? Should they know the history of the countries that stood by them? The need to be Pan-Africanist in all we do, in spite of what you just said.
Yes. I'm sure they have records of what Nigeria has done. History has not faded. However, if Nigeria has assisted them previously, it is no justification for us to go and commit crime. It is not justification for us to go and do what is anti-expectation of the government. It is not, there's no justification for us to do what they don't want in their country, because the country remains, is their country, and they want to ensure that everything that is happening in that country is controlled. So, South Africa too, apart from the assistance we render them sometimes, although they are still rendering services to us presently, though it is to their economic gain. You see MTN today, you see ShopRite and some big supermarkets in Nigeria. So that relationship is still there. But my worry here is that, has Nigerian government actually gone and have a roundtable discussion with our Nigerians over there? What is the Nigerian community there? What are they doing? What are they saying? Did they justify what is happening? And do they have records of our bad behavior? So I think they are going to play a big role in this exercise so that we can actually know how to direct our focus.
You just mentioned something very important where you talked about whether or not they remember history. They will not want criminality in their continent, in their country. But the manner in which it's been, the attacks are happening is not just, I'm not sure they have the mechanism for picking who did what, where, or how. As long as you're not a documented, you're not South African, like the videos we saw, the very disturbing videos we saw of South Africa, the group getting into a hospital, an institution that should help people. Even when they were admitted, they were asking everyone that's not South African, that does not have the South African passport, to leave the hospitals. So that kind of attack is not targeting those who are perpetrating crimes in their country. This seems to be, to whom it may concern, you're attacking Namibians, you're attacking Gambians, you're attacking Ghanaians, you're attacking everybody but yourself. So is it time to boycott South Africa as black migrants, to say, you know what, it's a beautiful country, we thought we're brothers, but let this be. They do not want us let them be. Because it took the government several days after the attacks to even give an official response. And that silence there was also misconstrued, whether misconstrued, but was also perceived as some sort of affirmation of what's going on, until countries were beginning to write to their government about the killings. So far, Nigerians have recorded 2 killings. And then while you respond to that, I would just like you to also mention the kind of diplomatic response you would like Nigeria to give? Beyond the NIDCOM's express statement asking for calm and condemning the activity, which is something Nigerians have come to expect all the time.
Yes, thank you. Before I go there, let us also understand what xenophobia means. Now, there are several factors that can instigate xenophobic activities. You see, it could be bad impression, having wrong impression concerning some of those races.
Right.
2, it could also be economic problems. It could also be what can also considered to be complex. When they see other nations in their country, they can have complex. So many things are responsible. It's also possible that, you see, politicians are this different set of people. There could be some political movement over there. There could be some political influence that are responsible. But to profile solution, as what you have just said, it is an issue where the African Union has to sit and deliberate on it, because no nation grows in isolation.
Absolutely.
Because no nation grows in isolation, the AU has to sit on the round table and say, let us find out. And 2, there needs to be engagement. There needs to be engagement. There has to be engagement, national engagement, continental engagement. Let us find out what is responsible. Are they being unjustly harassed? Are they committing crimes in that country? So that once we are able to have roundtable discussion, then it should be taken to EU, that there will not be a pronouncement. And the appropriate sanction can be meted on South Africa if they are found to be found wanting. So these are systems. So these are solutions. But before we get that solution, there has to be discussions. Let us go to nitty-gritty. What is responsible? Are the aliens who are there responsible, or is it just normal hatred that they are trying to meet
on these black migrants?
Yes.
Now, the question, we have addressed the issue of crime, where one of the justification for these attacks on not just businesses, shops are being looted, we're seeing homes being burnt, workers attacked and lives destroyed under this poisonous excuse of you are taking our jobs. We've exhausted the criminality part of it. We know that there's no country in the world that does not have its fair share of criminality. If the institutions that curb criminality works very well, citizens don't have to take laws into their hands.
Correct.
Whether you are a national of that country or not. We had a conversation earlier when you said, when you go to the US, for instance, you'll start behaving because the cameras would capture you, and when they do capture you, they would decipher who you are by face recognition, because you don't want that kind of stain. You behave yourself. Even at that, we still record, you know, a lot of people who are daring. However, let's move to the issue of they have come and they are taking our jobs, and because they are taking our jobs, we no longer have jobs. Ambassador, we got to a point where we saw videos of some South Africans showing the homes of who they refer to as migrants, who are resting while we are having to work all night. These are individuals who are more schooled, who have businesses, who came and, you know, built businesses, washed it to the ground up. And so if you are meant to do menial jobs, it's not because of the person who has worked even harder. So they were pointing at those, they started attacking those homes. But let me hear your thoughts about they are coming to take our jobs accusation.
You see, there's no way they say we're going to take their job, because if we are working, if Nigerians are working there, they are paying taxes, or they are paying the appropriate dues. And if you look at Nigerians who have also established there, they are contributing to their economy. And most Nigerians they also employ some of the South Africans. So they have no justification to start doing what they are doing. And when you see things like this continuously recurring, it simply means that the government, their government is not far from it. Because if their government decide to condemn it and to stop it, it will stop. Because for you to know that, I'm not saying the government is justifying it. Have we recorded anybody that has been prosecuted? Have we seen any South African that will say right now, because of what this xenophobic attack, let us prosecute them and then sentence accordingly? No. Nigerians have hardly gone there and get justification. So it simply means that it's all inclusive. Both the government, both the businessmen and all others. It is hatred that is brewing. It's hatred that is brewing. So it's good for them to know that, look, there was a time they were in Nigeria begging, and we assisted them. There was a time during apartheid, they were being harassed and they were being caged. If not for the cry and hue of the entire world for them to be rescued from apartheid, just imagine how they are still being to this hour. So there is no justification of what they are doing. What they also need to do is that they should strengthen their institutions. They should strengthen the institutions there who should take care of the migrants, those migrants there. Anybody who has defaulted should be penalized. And anybody who have defaulted in that country, whether from Nigeria or from any African country, should also be treated with all seriousness, so that they know that it's proper for them to have proper documentation. And when they begin to stray from what is normal and begin to do what is abnormal, what is crime, they also bear the appropriate consequences.
Absolutely. Well, again, Nigerians have cheated the Nigerian government for not acting swiftly. We saw that Ghana summoned the High Commissioner in Ghana to answer questions, but we did not see that swift action from Nigeria. What message does it really send to the world if we do not act so fast in protecting our citizens abroad? Very often you hear conversations from those whose job it is to protect the citizens, to tell you how, oh yes, Nigerians go there and commit all sorts of crimes. They should stop committing crimes. However, the attack is not just on the attack is on everyone. It's not targeting criminals, it's targeting everyone. And so even if you're a criminal, subject the individual to the institution that should, address your crime and prosecute you as such. However, we're not seeing that swift action. We're not seeing the ambassador being summoned by a House of Reps or rather legislators, as I should have expected in instances like this, or the president summoning the ambassador. Or, let us see an action that shows that you care for your citizens. Are we doing that here?
You see, Dr. Joy, you are going too far.
I am?
Yes, you are going too far. Because Nigerian citizens are not safe, they are not secured.
In Nigeria?
They die hourly, they die weekly, they die monthly. Nobody checks on them, nobody finds out, nobody protects them. No institution protects them. Even in Nigeria, you sound warning that, look, there will be mayhem. There's going to be overrun of certain communities, and nothing happens. The same country here, you see a general being killed. General being killed by non-entities. General being killed by people who are not trained in gun. People are generally being killed by terrorists. And nothing happens. Here in Nigeria, it has deteriorated to the extent that we hear that, in certain community, 20 people died. You say, how many say 20? Oh. Then maybe the following, they say, oh, there's another community, 30 died. Say, how many? Oh.
That is the saddest thing. The very fact that we have normalized killing.
So if we have not been able to intervene or protect the ones that we see around us here, is it those that we don't see? So look, anybody that leaves the shore of this country is on his or her own. Nobody, don't expect the government presence, don't expect the government intervention. Any from the needle and all of that, whatever they have said, they just said it to be heard. And I don't think they actually meant it, because the ones at home, how far have you protected them?
How dangerous is that kind of mindset for Nigerians having to leave this country? And we could say this casually, or you're not be your own, or you're on your own, but how dangerous is it when you feel like I can't be in trouble and then my government helps me?
Because you did said one of the countries, Ghana, summoned the ambassador to come and explain what is happening for questioning. We can't do that in Nigeria.
Why not?
Because...
I mean, I can understand the security issues we have here, the
yes.
challenges we are facing here, but again, my people say that forget what's happening in the home. If your person is outside, you don't close the door. So I protect my own. I cannot stand a Nigerian suffering abroad when you could help it. You could hold the government there accountable. We acknowledge the security issues back home. However, everybody should be accountable for its people. I think it's pure negligence if institutions of government that should do something about protection of citizens or Nigerians in diaspora do not do their job.
In this very case, help cannot come from Nigeria government because the government has not been able to protect itself. The government has not been able to protect its environment. The government has not been able to protect its structures. You see, you just mentioned when that of Ghana, they summoned the ambassador to come and explain. These are nations that care for our citizens. So the only organization that can help in this circumstance are two. The first one is Africans in diaspora living in South Africa, for them to put themselves together and say enough is enough. They know the appropriate government to report this matter to. They know where they are going to complain to. So that's why I said, if we must get solution, if we must get intervention, there has to be dialogue. We have to find out what is happening within South Africa. Let us find out from the Nigerians and all other Africans in diaspora. Let them see.
When they say enough is enough, what would it entail? When you say let's get to a part where they say, you know what, enough is enough, but what would it entail? What much can they do?
Yes, in that circumstance, remember they are not in their land. They have limitations. When they say enough is enough, meaning they have to start following the right channels. They have to cry out and say, when Africa community over there cries out, the African Union has no option than to intervene on what is happening. So it is the Africans in diaspora that are living in South Africa that can give us first-hand information, not just first-hand information. These are the same people that can give us the status or exactly what is happening there. So it is whatever information they give out that we go to work on. Whether this xenophobic attack, is it legitimate? Is it justifiable? Is it we, other Africans who are going there, that are causing this mayhem? Is it we that are not following due process on what they are supposed to do? Are we the ones that are committing havoc there? Are we the ones that are perpetrating evil? So if it is not us, it is the same, the diaspora community that will tell us and say, no, what they are doing right now is pure hatred, pure xenophobic, and all of that. Then there has to be enough is enough cry, which you just said. The African Union has to intervene.
So my question before we go on a break, and I would like you to just think about it before when we come back, it would be, how dangerous is this economically and politically, and I mean for the Africa that we know, if governments do not intervene quickly to curb what's going on? Unfortunately, when you look at the news and you see reports from South Africa, there are it's a massive crowd of people saying, no, we do not want these black migrants in our country. That right there tells a story. But how dangerous is it if for social, economic, and political implication of these kind of stories continuing? It may be rhetoric, it may be political. I've also heard people who say there is a sabotage somewhere. These people are being fueled somehow. And we'll get to that conversation. We've had the conversation around xenophobic attacks and how diplomatically it can be solved. Now, we are still discussing xenophobic attacks and diplomatic ways that it can be solved. We've gotten the conversation having addressed the criminal justification or the criminal plan that they said was the reason for these attacks. We've also gotten to the concept of they are taking our jobs and so they should leave so we have more jobs for our people. That's another excuse that they've been peddling as justification for these attacks and the protests therein. However, we're moving on now to discuss the broader implication, not just for the African image, but for within Africa, the intercontinental implications in social implications, political implications, and of course, economic implications. In the studio with me has been Ambassador Dixon Omoregie. He is the Executive Director, Institute for Cultural Diplomacy. Again, I thank you so much for staying with us and addressing these issues. A lot of people have said, I guess it's time to boycott South African businesses. It's time to also shut down these businesses in our country. While the likes of Nigeria would not just wake up and take that, because I would say it here, say it all the time, we are very hospitable people. It has not cost me my friendship with my South African friend here in the country. We still sit out and talk about the ridiculousness of it all. However, what's the broader implication? Let's start with, should other Africans also rise up against South Africans in their country? I'm not preempting, of course, but I mean.
Yes, under the way it ought to be. Nigeria, known to be the giant of Africa, ought to have spoken, and all the countries, all the nations within Africa, they will not join suit. But unfortunately, they have seen Nigeria to be a sleeping giant, a sleeping elephant. Otherwise, Nigeria alone can do this mobilization and ensure that there are adverse consequences for what they have done. For instance, if there is a discussion, roundtable discussion within other African nations, they can say, well, let us boycott South Africa. That is one. Two, they will also be compelled to pay what they have done by taking them to criminal justice court.
Right.
Because if there was any, instead of taking the laws into their hands, let them prosecute them. If there's anybody who has been found wanting, prosecute that person, take the person to court. If the person needs to be sentenced, go ahead. Than just on a rampage and say you want to kill people. You see, this mass abuse, mass attack is not welcome. It's no longer modern, and they should not be tolerated. So there are several actions Africans are supposed to have taken. Unfortunately, Nigeria cannot do that at this hour because Nigeria is not to be a sleeping giant. Let African Union. So I think there should be, I think the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy has to write a serious complaint to the AU. We have to do that this week. This week we are entering. They have to know that. That's
something I would like to follow up on, because I would like to see the response of the African Union. Again, Nigeria may be a sleeping giant, but where lies one who should be the bigger giants, the African Union, who should sneeze or to catch cold and everyone sneeze. I should expect we have tighter principles and regulations across countries within the AU that ensures that things like this don't happen. And if they do happen, it is it has
consequences,
implications as well.
Yeah, it has
because when you
implications.
hear the statements by the South African Ramaphosa-led leadership, when he said, well, foreigners, while he condemns what's going on, foreigners should respect the sensibilities of their host. And you ask yourself, you have no evidence that the individuals that are being targeted are necessarily perpetrating any kind of crime. And how do you respect the sensitivities of your host when you come and you're doing business, and the very fact that you're doing well in business, or you have jobs which came about because of your expertise, is by that term makes you a target for these individuals that are attacking? So that kind of narrative and nuance is what I would like the Institute of for Cultural Diplomacy to take up with the African Union. And I would like to follow it through and hear the response from the African Union.
Yes, we have, before now, we have always had meetings with African Union. We had meetings there, various desks there. But the concentration was the unity in Africa, the peace in Africa, and the development of Africa. We have never actually complained concerning the xenophobic attack for Africa. I think that should be the next turn, and it has to be done this week. We'll do it, and we'll carry along.
I would absolutely be here and happy
so
to follow through and see what happened.
Yes.
But if moving forward, we have talked about the social implication of this, but economic implication. I mean, when you look at the South African economy, do you think that should African Union now, I mean, I'm becoming very Western, you know, impose tariffs like Donald Trump will quickly do. If African Union impose trade tariffs on South Africa, or if other countries impose tariffs on South Africa, or some punitive measure, would it affect the South African economy?
Yes.
Should hypothetically everyone say, all the black migrants say, you know what, I'm leaving this country for good and I am not doing business. Do you think it will significantly affect the economy of the country?
Yes. Some time ago, it was about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago, when this xenophobic attack was also on the rise. Yes, I remember there was a South Africa airline that came to Nigeria. Immediately it arrived in Nigeria. All Nigerians in that aircraft, they were all disembarked, and they returned everybody from South Africa. They returned them back to South Africa. Just imagine a full aircraft. They were all returned back. The following day, they have to send the appropriate envoy to come and start discussing with Nigeria. That's what I'm saying. So there has to be consequences. See, the nonsense they are doing should attract consequences. And the consequences should be African. Another consequence has to be Western. That's why I said they have to go to court, international court of justice. Then two, Africans should put themselves together. Across Africa, there are so many South African installations. There are so many South African investment in Africa and other parts of Africa. So they should also suffer it. When they suffer it, it is those investment proprietors or patrons that will cry out and say, no, what we are doing is very, very wrong. Now, if you look at it here in Nigeria now, most South African investments here, Nigerians are working there. Also in South Africa, Nigerian investment there, South Africans are working there. So it is just it can act out of sheer wickedness. I have sheer wickedness. They are blunt in their heart. That is what is causing these things. They are not looking back. They are not looking beyond their nose, and they are thinking that they are successful. They are thinking that they are okay. They don't need neighbors. So there has to be serious sanction. There has to be serious sanction within Africa and beyond. Asking whether it has economic implications. Yes, it does. Now, among the economic implications, just look at Nigerians that are dead today. They have not been looted. Somebody who may have had a wealthy shop of millions of goods be looted. Within 24 hours, the shop becomes empty. Now, I'm sure what they are doing can also be applicable to those who kept money at home. So once you go to them, harass them, whatever they have at home, you loot all of them. So somebody who was rich yesterday can become poor today. That is serious.
Yes, the realities of some of this consequence of some of these attacks.
Yes. Then also, there are, among the economic consequences, there are goods and services that are being traded in South Africa, so there will be serious discouragement. Then South Africans who also want to come to Nigeria, then we need to look at them with skepticism. Now it is the same you that are doing. You see, it's just that Nigerians are too tolerant
and hospitable.
Otherwise, a little spark of what they have done can.
I also remember a time when, because of, in response to a xenophobic incident,
yes,
Nigerians were attacking MTN. I remember they were attacking the MAS, they were attacking ShopRite. I remember they had to, at the time, close up and all that until that diplomatic conversation that you said happened. Again, still speaking about African Union and the economic implication of all of this, the African Union framework of AfTA, which is the African Continental Free Trade Trade Area, is one that South Africa is part of. And if we want to push forward that very important and noble framework that improves intercontinental trade. We're talking about such an Africa where we see one currency. Are we even ready for one currency, less stiff borders for access? Because that's what the African Free Trade, Intercontinental Free Trade Agreement talks about. Are we even ready? Still talking about the economic implication of it all.
Yes. You see, the whole thing is all encompassing. It's all encompassing. Now, Africa as a continent has problem. And the problem Africa as a country is having is problem of leadership.
Okay.
It's a problem of leadership. That problem is, you see somebody who wants to remain in power for donkey years. The person doesn't want to leave. Also, anybody, most of our leaders here in Africa, they don't have that mind of unity, peace, and developing Africa. That is why they want to remain in power. They want to remain in power without leaving that position. For us to achieve that one currency, there has to be some degree of understanding, degree of unison among African nations. Until that is achieved, the idea of one currency or the same currency is not possible. It's not possible. It's not possible.
But this is South Africa that is a pact to the BRICS. They are the S in the BRICS, in the other currency. Why can't Africa, roll out a currency that we all accept so that we end this dollarization and we are not at the mercy of the volatility of our economy, of our currency rather?
You see, when there is no unity, when there is no understanding, there will be diverse of interest. There will be disunity, and there is no way without cohesion for us to now say, okay, let us focus on same goal. It's not possible. Okay, look at it within Africa today. There are countries today that are being led by the military. While there are countries today that are having democratic rule. Those that are having democratic rule, there are some countries in Africa today, the president has been there for about 30-something years. So what has such person got to offer? The conscience is not there.
I should expect that if you've been there for several years, for some reason you have voted in, we see the case of Uganda, we see, and several other, Cameroon and all of that, we see other African countries. It gives you more guts to say, you know what, this is where I stand, let's come together. I think for someone who has 4 years and another 4 years and then has to campaign again, has less to lose in having these stiff policies that may affect the economy of their nation. But I think Africa has no excuse for developing at a speed higher than China. I think with the resources that we have, nothing should stop us.
It will still be difficult for Africans to develop like that. You see, development is individual. It's not collective. When I say individual, the individuality here, I'm talking of the headship of that country. When the head of that country is a flamboyant head, nothing happens. If look at Traore today. He has not bought any brand SUV for himself.
Because what matters to him is country first.
He's building the country. He's building roads, building houses. That's priority. And that is how to know a leader. Not a leader that will amass meetings and buy all the houses within his state and the entire nation. No, that is not. You see, I will continue to say it. Development can function when the head wants development. When the head have the interest of the people. If you don't have the interest of the people, you think of yourself alone. You think of your immediate family, your friends and circle. Nothing will move. Nothing will go. There cannot be development. And remember, there's that saying that the money that you steal, the way you squander it is somehow. Our greed, the money that can develop our environment is enough. But it's not enough for greedy guys to steal. The money is enough to go around, but the money is not enough for them to steal. So it depends on the...
So no matter how much they have amassed,
yes,
they'll go back for more and more and more.
It's not enough for them to steal.
Even at the detriment of the collective
No, it doesn't
commonwealth.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any money to them. It doesn't add anything to them. So that is it.
Okay. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Above everything, I think I'll just give you a minute to have your final thoughts for Nigerians, for black migrants over there, and the diplomatic solutions to cap it all. What are your final thoughts?
Yes. You see, if you look at the people that are victims of this xenophobic attack are the youth, the young ones.
Right.
And these young ones are said to be the leaders of tomorrow. And when they go to such places and they're being tortured, they have that impression about South Africa. I tell you, it's an indelible experience.
Absolutely.
In their heart. So wherever they see South Africans, whether in Nigeria or wherever they see them, I tell you, it will also recall them. So I want to encourage the younger ones in Nigeria, especially the youth, just do not lose hope. Continue. However, you must do what is right. Whenever you are in any country, do according to the country's rules. And when you're also in that country, do not forget that you are from a proud nation, which is Nigeria. Please do not soil your hands in anything negative. And to the international community, especially the international community that are looking at them. You see, most of these things that are happening there, we don't know how it is being aided. Politicians are here and there. It could be, as of today, there are some political moves. That is why we must go on dialogue. We must engage them. Any country that actually wants to find out and wants solution for this xenophobic attack has to engage the Africans in diaspora over there to give us a clear perspective on what is happening. And the African Union has to stand up. The African Union has to stand up, and they have to be up and doing to ensure that South Africa does not start annihilating people the way they are doing it now. Otherwise, when it deteriorates beyond this, I tell you, the South Africa also have their whatever, what do you call it, their investment here. So if, for example, any member of my family today is killed over there, you think I'll be happy to see the investment here? I'll be happy? No, it's not done. So we are advising Nigeria to please let the government, let the appropriate authority intervene, let them find out, let them send delegation. Recall the other time in Burkina Faso, when they intercepted or when they seized our plane. It was a diplomatic solution. They sent this foreign affairs minister and others went there, and there was a resolution. Yes.
Okay,
so,
we really have run out of time, Ambassador. Thank you so much. I thought you would have a one-liner as concluding thoughts, but you are right about these issues and those who should come on and diplomatically solve this problem. But this is where we end today's edition of Joy Asanya Live. I've had a wonderful time discussing this. Thanks again for being part of the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
So until next time, have yourself a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day.